All right. Which holiday or event does your family celebrate with enough food to feed a whole army? And
And
what was
our and ours is called Fakes Giving. It comes the Sunday before the Thursday, and we have probably 40 some people here. Um, and I've never seen so much food in my life. And we do that because the traditional Thanksgiving allows then all our kids and their families to go with their in-laws. So it's
oh,
it's been a great thing. We don't have the argument who's going to go where on Thanksgiving. It's been a
yeah.
real blessing.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah.
I just remember my father saying, have we started on the second turkey yet?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably remember when we used to work with that Hispanic church that met over on Washington Street, and we took I don't know, we had a number of turkeys, but I don't know, I think there was 200 people there or something, but I kept thinking we were going to run out of food, but it was kind of like it just multiplied itself. But there was a lot of food there. Think of a time in the past when you had a choice whether to forgive or get even. What did you do?
Well, I'm a guy and I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'd want
I
one.
think my answer to that is by the time you have time to think about it, it's not a big deal, and you kind of just say, "Oh,
Right.
it's not worth it."
Like counting to 10, right, Gary?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my mother used to say that to me all the time. Say, you need to think about it. You just need to, pray on it, think on it. Just don't react. And usually after she did that, then she'd say, "Well, what are you gonna do?" "Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
Gonna do nothing."
Okay. Have you ever had to act suddenly to fix a mess created by someone else?
Mm.
How'd you feel about it, and how effective was your fix?
Felt that was job security. That was my job. I found colleges that were struggling, and I immediately would go in and we'd do training and set up the fixes for better student success, better student retention, more graduations.
Okay.
So that was my job.
All right. So that was just a par for the course for you, just every day.
Hmm.
Yep, got it.
Well,
Uh,
we all had kids, so that happened every day when they were growing up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good example.
Mhm.
All
If
right.
you had my kids, you really got good at it.
Yeah, I get that. So this is for you, Rick.
Okay, here we go. After the brief reference to Samuel's death, this text relates the conflict between Nabal and David, in which Nabal's noble wife intercedes to prevent a violent conclusion. In the end, however, God himself intercedes to vindicate David's actions and confirm David in the lesson he has learned from the episode. Patience and restraint are the path to Yahweh's best plan. The Nabal episode confirms David's actions of the previous chapter, in which he refused to take Saul's life in the cave at En Gedi. But the question remains, will David take vengeance against his enemies in his own power and become king by his own hand? Or will he wait patiently for God's timing? Nabal provides a test case for David. How he responds here will reveal how he will bear up under the similar but even more drastic circumstances. This text is really about David and his evolution from young exile to ideal king. He is in transition on his way to becoming Yahweh's ideal anointed one, someone suitable to serve as king of Israel.
Thanks, Rick. Steve, there's 4 pages, so just giving you a heads up.
Large font, right?
Yeah, I think pretty much. Well,
Maybe not.
maybe not.
Samuel, Samuel died, and all Israel assembled to mourn for him, and they buried him by his home in Ramah. David then went down to the wilderness of Paran. A man in Maon had a business in Carmel. He was a very rich man with 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and was shearing his sheep in Carmel. The man's name was Nabal, and his wife's name Abigail. The woman was intelligent and beautiful, but the man, a Calebite, was harsh and evil in his dealings. While David was in the wilderness, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So David sent 10 young men, instructing them, "Go up to Carmel, and when you come to Nabal, greet him in my name. Then say this: long life to you and peace to you, to your family, and to all that is yours. I hear that you are shearing. When your shepherds were with us, we did not harass them, and nothing of theirs was missing the whole time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. So let my young men find favor with you, for we have come on a feast day. Please give whatever you can afford to your servants and to your son David." David's young men went and said all these things to Nabal on David's behalf, and they waited. Nabal asked them, "Who is David? Who is Jesse's son?" "Many slaves these days are running away from their masters. Am I supposed to take my bread, my water, and my meat that I butchered for my shearers and give them to these men? I don't know where they are from." David's men retraced their steps. When they returned to him, they reported all these words. He said to his men, "All of you, put on your swords." So David and all his men put on their swords. About 400 men followed David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. One of Nabal's young men informed Abigail, Nabal's wife, "Look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, but he yelled at them. The men treated us well. When we were in the field, we weren't harassed, and nothing of ours was missing the whole time we were living among them. They were a wall around us, both day and night, the entire time we were herding the sheep. Now consider carefully what you must do, because there is certain to be trouble for our master and his entire family. He is such a worthless fool, nobody can talk to him." Abigail hurried, taking 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 butchered sheep, a bushel of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. Then she said to her male servants, "Go ahead of me, I will be right behind you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. As she rode the donkey down a mountain pass hidden from view, she saw David and his men coming toward her and met them. David had just said, "I guarded everything that belonged to this man in the wilderness for nothing. He was not missing anything, yet he paid me back evil for good. May God punish me and do severely if I let any of his men survive until morning." When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off the donkey and fell with her face to the ground in front of David. She fell at his feet and said, "The guilt is mine, my lord, but please let your servant speak to you directly. Listen to the words of your servant. My lord should pay no attention to this worthless man Nabal, for he lives up to his name. His name is Nabal, and stupidity is all he knows. I, your servant, didn't see my lord's young men whom you sent. Now, my lord, as surely as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, it is the Lord who kept you from participating in bloodshed and avenging yourself by my own hand. May your enemies and those who want trouble from my lord be like Nabal. Accept this gift your servant has brought to my lord, and let it be given to the young men who follow my lord. Please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord is certain to make a lasting dynasty for my lord, because he fights the Lord's battles. Throughout your life, may evil not be found in you. When someone pursues you and attempts to take your life, my lord's life will be tucked safely in the place where the Lord your God protects the living. However, he will fling away your enemies' lives like stones from a sling. When the Lord does for the Lord all the good he promised and appoints you ruler over Israel, there will not be remorse or a troubled conscience for my Lord because of needless bloodshed or my Lord's revenge. And when the Lord does good things for my Lord, may you remember me, your servant." Boy, the font keeps getting smaller. Then David said to Abigail, "Praise to the Lord,
What are you
God of
drinking?"
Israel, who sent you to meet me today. Your discernment is blessed, and you are blessed. Today you kept me from participating in bloodshed and avenging myself by my own hand. Otherwise, as surely as the Lord God of Israel lives, who prevented me from harming you, if you have not come quickly to meet me, Nabal wouldn't have any men left by morning light. Then David accepted what she had brought him and said, Go home in peace. See, I have heard what you said and have granted your request. Then Abigail went to Nabal, and there he was in the house, holding a feast fig for a king. Nabal was in a good mood and very drunk, so she didn't say anything to him until morning light. In the morning, when Nabal sobered up, his wife about told him about these events. Then he had a seizure and became paralyzed. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal dead. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Praise the Lord who championed my cause against Nabal's insights and restrained his servants from doing evil. The Lord brought Nabal's evil deeds back on his own head. Then David sent messengers to speak to Abigail about marrying him. When David's servants came to Abigail at Carmel, they said to her, David sent us to bring you to him as a wife. She stood up, then bowed her face to the ground and said, Here I am, your servant, to wash the feet of my Lord's servant. Then Abigail got up quickly, and with her 5 female servants accompanying her, rode on a donkey following David's messengers, and so she became his wife. David also married Ahinoam of Jezreel, and the 2 of them became his wives. But Saul gave his daughter Michal, David's wife, to Palti, son of Lash, who was from Galim.
Oh, thanks.
Whew.
Yeah, a lot there. So
Take a rest.
Yeah. Where's the clip notes? We should have read those.
Yeah.
some of those, some of the lessons that combine these chapters, but that would be a lot of reading. But yeah, probably both Hamrick and Begg, when they got to this last part here, they wanted to make sure everybody understood that multiple wives was not God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank God.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they did that. So, but anyway, so they both kind of emphasized that, and then there was some Nabal means fool. I think I got another definition of it somewhere in the lesson here, but yeah, I don't know. Begg was saying that probably wasn't his given name. It's probably a nickname that he earned because he was so foolish. But then Hamrick was talking about, well, why would anybody name their baby a fool or foolish to start with? But so anyway, that was the discussion on that. Okay, here we are. You can see there's Carmel and Moan very close, and so David's still kind of on the run. And but this is kind of where we are. We're following all these green paths here. Okay, so I guess apparently, we'll get from the text that apparently David and his men were in Carmel, and Nabal, who actually lived in Moan, he had like 3,000 sheep, which meant he was a very rich man. I think Hamrick was saying typically if the person had 12 sheep, they were pretty well off. So he had like 3,000. So he was really well off. So, but I guess they were grazing in this area here. Nabal's men were shepherds, and typically then when they had a harvest, they shared the sheep and they had a harvest, so it was a big celebration. It was a feast day, and they would typically invite everybody in the area to come in, and as they were doing that work and having a big feast. But so that's kind of why David and his guys said, well, we didn't ask for anything, but we were out there protecting your people and kept them safe. So we're here to celebrate with you. So, but that didn't. Nabal wasn't having anything of it. So what's the nation's response to the death of the prophet Samuel? Well,
All
Morning.
of Israel assembled to mourn.
yeah, and I don't know if Begg was going on about how this is such a short mention of Samuel dying when he did so many great things, and from Hannah's thing in the beginning. But I don't know. I think they're just, since that's not part of this story, they're just noting that at this time Samuel died. So, what sort of man was Nabal, and what limits did his personality place on their household? Um, very rich, thousands of goats also shearing. Contrast the way Abigail is described in the passage used to describe her husband. So he was very rich. The woman was intelligent and beautiful, but the man, a Calebite, and I didn't look up what that was, but was harsh and evil in his dealings. So I think it was also some comment too on the fact that women weren't regarded with much as being intelligent, but apparently it was important enough here to note that she was intelligent and beautiful, and why she ends up with well, as typically I think as we've seen even in our dealings now, very powerful men and end up with intelligent, beautiful women. But
So does all of his goods, his sheep and stuff, end up being David's after he dies and marries his wife if they
Well,
don't have kids?
I would guess so.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, they all would have been his too if he got in and killed all the guys. So
Right.
yeah,
He's going to have it one way or the other.
yeah.
He was a
Although
little
now he has all
sheepish
the
after
now he has
that.
all the shepherds. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Do you think this scripture is true of Nabal? This scripture from Philippians. They are headed for destruction. Their God is their appetite, and they brag about shameful things, and they think only about this life here on earth. So, for some reason, I pulled that from, but I think was pretty true of Nabal. We told that Abigail had both brains and beauty. In a culture that rarely hailed women with intelligence, why do you think her intelligence was noted? And which intelligence or appearance do you feel is most prized in our culture today? Why do you think it's mentioned in this story? Anyone? Bueller?
Bueller.
Mm.
Well, obviously, because she's the one that gets David back on track. You know, he was ready to go in and kill those people when in the past even he was going to spare Saul, but he forgot something. So I think I've got a question on that either down here too. What favor did David ask of Nabal through his representatives?
Spare some food.
Yeah, yeah. And again, why did David feel that Nabal should be willing to give him gifts?
Because I didn't touch your shepherds
Yeah.
when I could have.
And he actually protected him, is what I think
Yeah.
the implication is. So his request was probably reasonable. And like I said, it's a feast day, and probably a whole city or everybody in the area was involved, could come to the feast. So what answer did Nabal send back to David? And it was almost giving him the finger, so kind of thing. So how did David react to the message from Nabal? And why did David act that way?
Not happy.
No. He's gonna go
Yeah.
in and,
I'll just take it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. In verse 14, we read that one of the servants came to Abigail with news of the situation. Where it says, one of Nabal's young men informed Abigail, Nabal's wife, look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, but he yelled at them. What qualities do you think made Abigail and makes other people approachable?
Humility.
Yeah.
Even though she was obviously rich beyond rich, right?
Yeah, and she was the wife of Nabal. I think I had a question. I guess not. I did have, maybe I didn't include it in this, but yeah, that the servants of the shepherds are the of Nabal. I mean, they took a risk going to his wife, I think, rather than well, they wouldn't dare go to Nabal, I don't think, based on him being an asshole.
Well,
So
yeah, it kind of sounds like they all think he's an asshole,
yeah,
Yeah.
right? Even
Yeah.
her and the servants. So they
yeah,
probably talk about him all the time when he's not there.
yeah, yeah. Can you believe what? Anyway, yeah. And again, we've kind of talked about this too. Why did David feel justified in taking revenge on Nabal?
He asked nicely.
Yeah, he asked nicely, and he'd done a lot for them, throughout the year, protected his shepherds. And uh, does Abigail do the right thing to intercede for her husband? What might have happened had she not?
Well, the other thing about thinking about Nabal's young man, one of his young men, he probably figured if I don't get her to help, I'm going to be dead,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So kind of self-preservation.
yeah,
Even if she turns me in and what's his name kills me,
yeah,
David will, or David's men will.
yeah,
Pick your poison.
yeah. They're kind of in a tough situation there. So Abigail took risk in diffusing the situation. What did she stand to lose if her intervention went wrong?
Her life.
Yeah, probably. So how did Abigail show wisdom in the preparation of her defenses? So she hurried, taking 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 butchered sheep, a bushel of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins. I don't know why they didn't get in those little boxes, the red box. 200 cakes of pressed figs. That'd be like fig Newtons. I'm just thinking of modern things. And loaded them on donkeys. Then she said to her male servants, go ahead of me and I will be right behind you. But she did not tell her husband. So,
That's a lot of food laying around in the kitchen.
Yeah.
well, this was a feast, time of feast, the time of harvest.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
pinwheels, Gary.
Yeah.
Sharing of the sheep. And so, yeah, there's several things here. Now, this is, I'm trying to think of the story. I think it was Jacob and Esau was a situation when he was meeting with his brother again. Didn't he send a bunch of food and everything ahead of him? Oh, am I thinking the right story?
No, I think you're right.
And then he was behind, so um, kind of to soften the blow, or so we could anyway start out with the gifts, and then come up with a situation or discussion. What did David resolve to do in response to Nabal's insult? was going to go wipe everybody out. Again, so here he just said, I guarded everything that belonged to this man in the wilderness for nothing. He was not missing anything, yet he paid me back evil for good. May God punish me and do so severely if I let any of his men survive until morning. That's just pretty much wiping everybody out. So, in saying this, it seems like David might have forgotten something. What do you think it is? You guys get any coffee this morning? Anything?
I'm trying to be quiet, but obviously he doesn't show any mercy to this guy at all, where he's screwed up enough in his life where he's been shown mercy also. But when it comes to Noel, by the way, there's a whole, I know you mentioned Alistair Begg. Alistair Begg does a sermon on how God prepared women to be. I mean, she's exactly doing what a wife should do for Nabal. But also the only place she kind of falls down in his sermon when our wives make us very humble too. We find ourselves not believing that we're quite as great as we think we are. Wives are good at that. We still take out the garbage. And so he has a whole sermon on this whole thing about Abigail and Nabal and what a wife should be. But mercy, definitely, David doesn't show any mercy here. He did show kindness and love and came through this probably because of her, maybe. But at the end, he's going to wipe everybody out.
It's close, but no cigar there, Gary.
He forgot to go to God first.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a
Yes.
no. It's just one of the things that probably, if you can show me mercy in there anywhere, then tell me.
Yeah, no, Steve's got, I mean, he forgot to go to God. I mean, he forgot the lessons that we keep seeing there, and God keeps trying to teach him as he goes through this is God's in control,
Mhm.
and he's going to take care of you. And
I thought he said, may God punish me and do severely if I he asked God.
no, he didn't. He just says, I'm doing this, and may God punish me if I made the wrong choice.
Right.
So
he did ask God.
asked God, he said, it's like, I'm doing this, and may God punish me if I, so this would not be a God.
It's kind of like Saul, right? After the fact.
I don't
right?
think I would make that comment in a prayer and then walk out in a lightning storm.
Yeah, so God's still training David here. He's
He needs
What is-
he needs a lot of training.
yeah, well, we all do. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yeah.
what is the spirit of Abigail's appeal to David when she says, so when Abigail saw David, she quickly got off the donkey and fell down on her face to the ground in front of David. She fell at his feet. The guilt is mine, Lord, but please let your servant speak directly to you. And then, well, yeah, she's got a lot of positive things to say about her husband. My Lord should pay no attention to the worthless man Nabal, for he lives up to his name. His name is Nabal. His stupidity is all he knows.
So wives aren't supposed to talk about their husbands that way
Yeah.
in
She's
public.
She's obviously intelligent, just like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
said.
I didn't.
Did you see that? Your
yeah.
wife hollering at you? Hey, fool.
He was
Get
named
in here, fool.
correctly.
So she goes on. So she's a humble appeal, and she, I didn't see your men coming here, so I just somebody, one of the men told me about it. And she keeps, it's the Lord who kept you from participating in bloodshed and avenging yourself by your own hand. May your enemies and those who want trouble for my Lord, and again talking she's using a deference term for David. That's why it got kind of confusing in reading here. There's a big all cap Lord, which is probably what Yahweh, and then my Lord is, reference to those of a higher status, and asking for forgiveness, and she kind of prophesying for her, for the Lord is certain to make a lasting dynasty for my Lord, because he fights the Lord's battles. Throughout your life, may evil not be found by you. So
she seems to know who David is, but her husband has no idea.
yeah. Yeah. So how did Abigail evaluate her husband's judgment? Well, we just read that. Just foolish. What did Abigail ask David in return for the gifts she brought? So
To underline the last sentence.
yeah,
And when the Lord does good things for my Lord, may you remember me, your servant.
I think I had another question on that, but yeah. So this is just, if David had been, if you had been David listening to Abigail's plea, what range of emotions would you have felt? I mean, would your anger be subsided some?
I wouldn't use
Do you
word
think-
sympathy, I'd say empathy.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you think her appearance made a difference?
Yeah, she was.
I mean, if she was ugly, would he have responded in the same light?
Probably not.
No, you know
Yeah.
how shallow men are.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. But regardless of your gender, would you say your reactions to conflict are more like David or more like Abigail's?
More like Abigail's, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the ideal we should strive for, rather than just, I'm gonna kill those SOBs.
She's pretty well spoken.
Yeah.
I mean, she builds them up,
Yeah, she knows
Mm-hmm.
you know.
how to handle those situations. She's
Yep.
humble. She gives him compliments or honor, respect. So the verse I have underlined there, what instance in the New Testament does the last part of verse 31 bring to mind?
The
And
thief on the cross.
yeah, and when the Lord does good things for you, may you remember me, your servant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost exactly what the thief said. So when you come into your
Kingdom.
Kingdom.
when the Lord does good things for you, Jesus, may you remember me. So on what terms did Abigail and did David and Abigail part? So that was David accepted what she had brought him and said, "Go home in peace. See, I have heard what you said and have granted your request." So why did Abigail wait until morning to tell Nabal what had happened?
That one's drunk.
Drunk, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was in a good mood. I don't know, but anyway, and very drunk.
Yeah, maybe he was an angry drunk. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. When David married Abigail, he knew she was a mediator who would urge him to think twice and cool off before he acted impulsively. Why is peacemaking a valuable skill in marriage?
One of the Beatitudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
And especially as you're thinking, if you're having multiple wives, I think you want a good mediator. So anyway, let's sell. So if you were married, and everybody here, has your spouse ever pacified your anger as Abigail did for David? Did you ever go in ranting and raving and stomping around about somebody that really pissed you off, and your wife pacified your anger? Why is or isn't it fair to assume that someone to whom we have done good should be willing to return the favor?
They're human.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah. Did you, question is from yours, did you do good expecting a reward, or would you have done that good anyway? Well, I think that, yeah, the tone of that question is, if you did a good deed for somebody, should you expect something in return?
Not necessarily expect it, but
Yeah. In what way is it preferable to let God vindicate you rather than to avenge yourself of wrongs done to you? And again, I think that's part of the lesson of this passage.
yeah,
So yeah, we don't, in the big picture, we don't know what God's plan is, right? So obviously he's got Nepal, who's a terrible person in this whole plan. For what reason? For the reason is to feed David's men, right? He becomes rich and his purpose in life is basically to feed David's men. And then he's done with them. His job's done. See ya.
Yeah, I think also this whole thing was to kind of test to see how David's picking up on God being part of it.
Right.
And so he just done something nice for Saul, but then it comes up with this other situation and he can't realize that God's going to take care of him. He's got to do it his own. So again, as we sometimes all get kind of anxious and impatient when we know God's, by his past experience, taking care of us, but when he's not moving on it like we want, we want to take a situation over. So Alistair Begg, when talking about this passage, David losing his cool and is about to kill Nabal and all his men, but Abigail intervened, made reference to a verse from an 18th century hymn. And I don't remember this, but when all thy mercies, O God, was the name of the hymn. It was written back in the late 1700s. When in the slippery paths of youth with heedless step I ran, thine arm unseen conveyed me safe and led me up to man. So that he went on to say that in all those slippery paths of youthful endeavor and foolishness and stupidity, God can convey us safely if we are his children. So David continues to be schooled in the work of God in terms of providence. God is always at work in a variety of circumstances. Even though David is on the receiving end of opposition and hardship, he is actually safe in God's care. And hopefully we are discovering that God is always at work in a variety of circumstances and at work in a variety of ways. Begg, when talking about Nabal, said that Nabal reminded him of Richard Cory, which was, you can look up the song, so I'm not going to sing it, but the Simon and Garfunkel song. And some of the lyrics are, they say that Richard Cory owns one half of this whole town, with political connections to spread his wealth around. Born into society, a banker's only child, he had everything a man could want: power, grace, and style. The refrain is, but I work in his factory, and I curse the life I'm living, and I curse my poverty, and I wish that I could be, oh, I wish I could be Richard Cory. And then it goes on as several verses in this refrain. And then the last verse said about Richard Cory, he freely gave to charity, had the common touch, and they were grateful for his patronage, and they thanked him very much. So my mind was filled with wonder when the evening headlines read, Richard Cory went home last night and pulled a bullet in his head.
Yep.
And then it goes this refrain again, but I work in this factory and I curse the life I'm living. I curse my poverty and I wish that I could be, I wish that I could be Richard Cory. So it's odd that this refrain, this Simon and Garfunkel song has that last refrain, even after the guy went home and put a bullet through his head. So even though he's rich and had everything, there was something he was missing, obviously.
Grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
He was rich, but he didn't have everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the
Mhm.
point. So I think so Begg made that comparison to him and Nabal to Richard Cory. So Gary Hammock wonders why David was so quick to anger, quoting, "The discretion of a man makes him slow to anger, and his glory is to overlook a transgression." So, well, probably David didn't have this verse because I think Solomon wrote this Proverbs, didn't he? So, um,
Well,
again,
and the chapter starts with the death of Samuel,
yeah,
right? So I'm sure there's some emotion running through David at that point in time, right? Some sadness
yeah,
and maybe his men are grumbling about being hungry and, you know,
yeah. So yeah,
he is human, as we'll find out.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so a good sense makes a man restrain his anger, and it is his glory to overlook a transgression or an offense. And then it also made reference to this: a gentle answer turns away anger, but a harsh word stirs up wrath. So, and again, they both mentioned polygamy was not God's design; it was man's desire. God's design for marriage has always been one man with one woman. In Genesis, it says, "Therefore, man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." And then I thought this is from 2015, so this is the takeaway card. So David has given us a good example of consulting God in all things, but here in this instance, he does not, and is so pissed at Nabal, he is ready to go wipe him out. But here God intervenes and prevents David from doing some really stupid shit. I had a little more back then, wasn't I?
You were angry.
Boy, 2015 must have been quite a year for you here.
Yeah, that would damage his character and his career. I hope our Father continues to do that for me. Yeah. So, how faithful are you in leaving revenge to God? When did you most recently give someone what was coming to him, and when did you most recently return good for evil? And I was finishing this. We all witnessed Erica Kirk return good for evil in forgiving her husband's killer. So. A lot of those things came to mind as I was working on this lesson. So, any other thoughts on this interlude here? David, Nabal, and Abigail. Okay, nothing new or addition or
Good lesson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good lesson. I think that, I was thinking about this earlier about what you said about Erica Kirk, and I think that was something, but I also think that God let us hear when we had our own president disagree with her and his feelings for anybody that's in competition with him.
Yeah.
So I think we got diametrically different opinions on that, even though I've listened to it several times, by the way, And our president apologizes to her several times because of his thoughts, but yet he doesn't change. Still
Yeah.
has that narcissist kind of evil inside of him. It is
Yeah,
what God wants, as far
Yeah.
as Erica.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good illustration. I mean, that Trump is kind of like David before he encounters Abigail. I mean, he is, yeah.
He's very clear.
Yes, he doesn't mince words. He's always got to get in his little dig. Yeah, so I keep thinking that maybe at some point he will have an encounter with Christ that will change his demeanor, but then I guess he wouldn't be Trump.
Mhm.
But
Well, there's no coincidences with God, and I think everything happens probably for that reason. I thought a lot about what is it on foreign policy that makes him so successful with dealing with different countries. It's that very statement that he makes. He's not wishy-washy, and I'm not by any means supporting what's wrong by saying, yeah, he's right. I don't think maybe that God does not want that, but I will tell you, in on earth, people understand when the guy says, look, I don't like you, he really means it.
yeah,
He doesn't like you. There's no say, well, maybe I could, if I work at it, I could maybe have him be my friend. No, he doesn't like you.
no, that's true. Okay. I guess we can any other comments on the passage? We can